knowledge. It comes after mass protests across the country when the government removed a fuel subsidy. That decision caused the price of gasoline and other products to skyrocket. We wanted to try to unravel this very complicated story, so we've called upon Tim Cox. He's Reuters' chief correspondent for Nigeria. He joins us by phone from Lagos, Nigeria. Also with us once again, Dr. Duffy. He is the director of the Africa Growth Initiative at the Brookings Institution, and he was kind enough to join us in our Washington, D.C. studio. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Tim Cox, I'm going to start with you, just ask you to bring us up to date on the latest. We understand that there are new reports of violence in Nigeria. What's going on?
Well, today there hasn't actually been unconfirmed reports of more violence, but really there's still very much the case of a body count going on for Friday's attack, which was by far the deadliest single strike that Boko Haram have managed to achieve to date. I think that certainly it looks as if the violence is only going to get worse, at least in the short term. And the general perception is that President Goodluck Jonathan's administration and his security forces are just seem at the moment completely incapable of dealing with the situation in the north and haven't really fully grasped, or perhaps not until this weekend, the gravity of the crisis there. And I would say that probably this could actually be a turning point now. For the first time, President Johnson went to visit the victims of the bombing in Kano. Normally he's been very, very dismissive after a bombing. He'll wait a few hours, he'll put out some statement, but usually doesn't seem to be taking it all very seriously and just telling Nigerians that this is just some terrorist thing, this is an insurgency that will fit out. I think he's starting to realise quite how serious the situation is.
I understand that as serious as this bombing was, it could even have been worse, because I understand that the police say that they found 10 cars packed with what are being described as unexploded devices, that some cars were found abandoned. So as bloody as it was, it could even have been worse. Tim, is that what I'm hearing?
It could have been much worse, because, and I suppose some limited credit does go to the security forces here for managing to find those. There were cars loaded with explosives. They also found there were several Coke cans loaded with relatively high-grade explosives that the police have seized from various locations, which would presumably have gone off at some stage. Whether to read that as that this event could have been worse, or whether this is just the tip of the iceberg and it just shows quite how dangerous Kano is becoming, is difficult to say. But certainly the security forces there have been knocked out of any kind of complacency they have.
Can you tell us, what is this group and what are their goals? What are they after? What is the purpose of this?
This is what I would consider a radicalized Muslim group that has become increasingly violent. It sees itself as the intent of overthrowing the government of Nigeria, which it considers forbidden. They consider anything that's not Islam is not right, and therefore it has gained organizational capacity. It's gaining more support, but I think the bigger problem is that it has been underestimated by the government of Nigeria.
And what is their ultimate goal? Is it to partition the country into an Islamic north and a Christian south? Is it to control or impose Islamic law in the entire country? Have they ever made clear a specific objective?
They say that they want a state that is an Islam state, but they are not talking about north or south. They are talking about Nigeria. So they are not talking about just partitioning north or south. They think that anything that is Western is not right, and therefore they like a different type of government.
And the name of the group means what?
Well, it's actually more than what it says. It talks about the Western education is forbidden. But actually it is a bigger term that anything that is not Islam is not correct. It's a longer term, but it's been shortened to this idea of Western education not being right or acceptable.
If you just tuned in, we're talking about recent turmoil in Nigeria. I'm joined by Duffy. He's with the Brookings Institution. That's a research institute here in Washington, D.C. Also with us, Tim Cox. He's Reuters' chief correspondent in Nigeria, and he's with us from there. Now, Tim, we also talked about the fuel subsidy, that the government decided to remove a fuel subsidy. Nigeria is, of course, a major oil-producing country, And that caused the price of not just gasoline, but all sorts of products to skyrocket. You know, bus tickets, food, anything that has to be transported. Tim Cox, you've covered this issue extensively. What was the rationale for removing this fuel subsidy? And is it in any way related to the other story that we talked about, the violence?
Well, the clear link between, although they're obviously very different things, this issue of Boko Haram and the anger over the fuel subsidy removal. What came out from these protests that I think connects the two is that both were motivated by general anger at the government, at what Nigerians see as decades of misrule, of corruption, of failure to deliver even the most basic services, despite pumping something like 2 million barrels of oil every day, which, as far as most people can see, and especially in the north where this insurgency started, hasn't really done much to better their lives. In fact, they say they suffer more insecurity, they suffer higher prices, and they get nothing back. The one thing that they thought they did get back was this fuel subsidy. Of course, it was not actually a direct benefit from the oil, because the oil is all exported crude, and then they have to import